Welcome to
Unfiltered Growth.
Real Talk on Trends and Strategies. This podcast is your weekly dose of reality-checked wisdom.
As we explore the intersection of entrepreneurship, marketing, culture, business, and innovation.
We strip away the BS and dive into real challenges and opportunities for revenue growth.
With a sharp, unfiltered lens.
Expect raw conversations, real success,
and failure stories,
and practical advice that you can apply to your journey.
No filters,
just growth. When you're thinking of RevOps, what is the first thing that comes to mind besides like processes and people and platforms and things like that? Why do you think an organization needs it? And do you think it is a collection of sales ops, marketing ops, like business ops, or do you think it's more of just like a strategic role?
A good question. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is almost a higher level of thinking and evaluating of all the sub-sector individual operations. I think, as we talked about previously, you had echoed that many cases, people in RevOps or RevOps adjacent may be the first to go because they aren't quantifiably tied to the revenue, though it's in the name in some way, shape, or form that's relevant to your business or not. And I think part of that is because people think the subsections are the ones that move the needle, but when you have everything moving, you need that operating unit to just make sure everything talks to each other. And sales has their own language within their own group. Marketing has their own language, their own KPIs, their own OKRs. And the executive level leadership is over here somewhere in the corner. So we got everybody in their own little thing, fighting their own little battles, trying to win the war. And it's just like, why is this isn't working? Because you don't have the conductor making sure it all flows and translates into something that matters to everybody collectively. So I do think RevOps, the first thing that comes to my mind that isn't platform people or processes, is almost the synergy of all the other groups and having maybe a defined set of KPIs that matter collectively that like just translates to these are our 5 OKRs or however we're navigating that. And then to your other point, I think it almost challenges all the other groups to think beyond their own kind of headspace that they're living in, whether you're navigating DevOps, sales ops, the running joke, put any word in front of ops and there you go, whatever. I just find most times it's good to have someone bring everyone up that's middle ground before you go to the executive leadership team to make sure how's everything running and flowing and operating, both individually and collectively. And that's a critical role. Because if we leave everyone to their own devices, they're only going to manage their success gauging by their own individualized KPIs. And that may not reflect the ultimate impact of the overall company. And that's where everyone does the reports and they're like, nothing's matching, nothing's making sense. How did we miss this stuff? Because we didn't cross-reference. We didn't compare and contrast. We didn't do the extra meetings. I know we hate meetings. We didn't take the extra step, whether synchronously or asynchronously, to have the conversations to see where that looks like. But when you have a RevOps or RevOps team in place, they can assess at a higher level and make that work. So it's to everyone's advantage to, if you haven't already, maybe assign a separate team within your existing groups to be a RevOps team, or bring on people who can initially drive that home, because it's going to save you in the long run.
And I think too, if it's a factor, especially right now, it's hiring is hard and dollars are tight and whatever the excuse is, there's somebody in your organization that probably is good, could be good at this. And in my thinking too, it really is in parallel with almost like an HR business partner type of role as well, because they're the ones talking to stakeholders and leaders on like hiring needs or the strategies for the business. So if you don't have the dollars to do it, possibly maybe have a special project for them to dig into these tools that we've talked about that you can get if you subscribe to our newsletter, and start it that way to see if you can then hire someone to just carry on what they started the foundation on for your RevOps function of your organization.
Who may know me or who don't know me, I'm a person who thinks in a lot of analogies because it helps me like have a visual construct for things. And what screams out to me is you can have a phenomenal team of all-stars. And most times you think that team can run themselves and win you games, but they may not win you the championship because you need a coach. The executive leadership are not the coach. They're the GM. They're the owners. They're not the coach. But the RevOps team or the RevOps individual can be the coach because they're seeing all the different players and how they're interacting. Are we really, yeah, you've got your 35 points, but we lost the game by 5 because you didn't pass the ball, because you didn't foul. You need to have a game plan for that. Our goal is to drive more money, whether that's acquiring more business, reducing our costs, expediting our processes, upgrading our platforms or simplifying them. There's all these marginal things that it takes to be a successful business. And you need the right coach. You need the right RevOps person or team or group or collective or whatever you want to call it to make it work. And it looks really weird if the owner comes down and tries to coach the team. They're not with them every day. They don't see the ins and outs of what's going on. They're not going to know which player's injured. They're not going to know which, and in the same analogy, they're not going to know which team is struggling, which team really needs a hire, not what looks cheap or optics-wise. No, we really need another customer service person. We really need another marketing person. We need another pay person, whatever the case might be. But if you're not in it day-to-day to see the higher level of it, yeah, sure, it's easy to say, we don't need no coach. We don't need no RevOps person. We got all-stars on our team. And we all know how it works. If you don't have a coach, you don't win a championship. You don't have a RevOps, you don't really grow in business. You hit a plateau and you just stay there.
Exactly. And I think that analogy is so perfect because even with coaching, there's a head coach and then there's defensive, offensive line coaches, and that's their specialty. Right. So with like RevOps, you have those different specialties, and even the players on the field have their own like specialties. So when you're thinking about that with your organization, the right people in the right seats, and doing the plays, the operational processes that work, that can connect, that have an integration that has that the source of truth of trying to get that like touchdown to work together to seamlessly do that. And you need that person to have that big visionary vision. Yes.
We'll accept it.
And that, yeah, I was like, I didn't say that with that big strategic vision and just thinking of the game or of your organization, whatever it would be. But then those very specific roles in place to connect the pieces with like defensive, offensive, the head coach, and then just piece it all together because you can change, you can be agile and have different plays. It's not going to have one operational process and everything's going to be perfect. Don't we wish that was the case? The Cleveland Browns, we wish that was the case for real though. But in business, that's just, yeah, that's just not a thing. And so you have to be ready to change the game, but also listen to your players because coaches they just coach, but they're not playing on the field. So you need to listen to the players, people in your seats, and take that coach hat off sometimes and listen, and then figure out their strengths and play to their strengths and think outwardly about who they are as people, what their strengths are to then create this like operational machine that can help your business in each factor of it, and it helps your people, processes, and then your platforms as well.
And that wraps up another episode of Unfiltered Growth. Make sure you subscribe, rate
with 5 stars,
and leave us a review.
Remember, growth doesn't happen in isolation. Join our community of bold thinkers and doers on social media and stay connected.
Don't forget to go to season3media.com/podcast for strategy or event inquiries, resources, or to just chill with us.
Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, embracing diversity, and never stop growing. This is Christina and Troy signing off. And remember,
no filters,
just growth.